Shelly Berg, the Dean of the Frost School of Music at the University of Miami. And you can clap. That's good. You can clap.
If you want to move more center, Veronica's coming over.
Okay.
And I'll move this.
Okay. What's happening? Oh, we're bringing Veronica in?
We're bringing in another special guest.
Oh, there we go. Okay. We'll pat. Come on. No, you're in the middle. Beautiful women. You go right there. If you have one, yeah.
That'd be great. Veronica Swift.
Veronica Swift. Now the story here is this is a Miami connection, and this is where we're going to start. So, Shelly is the dean and has been for 12 years. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And when we started talking about the collaboration that could possibly happen between the Frost School of Music and JAS Aspen here, the Jazz Academy, one of the very first things that we talked about were the particular kinds of students that come out of the Frost School of Music. It's a very, very unique program that I had been aware of for years, just doing what we do here, presenting artists primarily. And there were always very interesting artists that came out of Miami because they seemed to be particularly prepared, if I could say that. The young people come out of that program and suddenly they're working, and it's not an easy world to get started in. And so I started to ask Shelly, well, Shelly, what is the philosophy exactly of the music school at Frost? And he's one of the first things he says, well, do you know about Veronica Swift? And I said, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, funny, you should mention that, but because I've heard her recently, and I didn't know that she had come from Miami. And then that started our discussion. So I'm going to punt to Shelly right now and say, Shelly, what is it what happens at Frost, and why is it that Veronica is such a wonderful example of the work that you've been able to do there?
Well, first of all, Veronica's talent would result in this result no matter what we did. But I do think, I'm sure you would say we did some things that were helpful, but, I always tell students when they walk in, your career's not the what next moment when you graduate, right? It's not, oh, I graduated, what now? Your career is now. So we're helping you curate your career now with real-world experiences, with a broader skill set. You can't just go into the world and you can sing or play well. Do you have a business sense? Do you understand the technology around music? Can you teach others? Can you market yourself? How is your stage presence? How do you relate to other people? And so, and we try to give our students as much real-world experience as possible while they're in school, so that they've already been doing what they're going to be doing at a very high level when they graduate. And so Veronica from day one had just so much immense talent and preparation that, she was a poster child early on for our school, because anytime we put her out there, everybody goes, wow, your school is really amazing.
How did you find your way to Frost? How did that happen for you?
I was very lucky to have had my upbringing. I had two parents who are very well-known jazz musicians, and my mother, who was in a group with Jon Hendricks in the 80s, great, bebop jazz lineage. She did a master class with John at the University of Miami before your time. This was when Larry Lappin was starting the program. This was in the 80s, so it had been around for a bit, and being one of the top jazz vocal programs in the country, in the world, my mom got to know Larry really well, and Larry kind of helped me get in and prepare me.
You were in Virginia at the time?
I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia, but I grew up on the road with my parents, New York, all over the East Coast, in Colorado too, LA, and I've been very blessed to have the upbringing I had. But thanks to Larry and Shelly, I was able to make an education out of it all too.
Mm. And did you met Shelly when he was at the university?
Yes.
You had never met him?
I'd seen him on stage, but I can't remember the first time we actually had a one-on-one. It was definitely a time where we played together.
Yeah, we played together, and there were times that you came in with a pianist. And we would really work on that whole relationship, right?
Mm-hmm. So I thought it would be interesting to, I noticed I was standing outside, and I just, in between shows, and I happened to notice that there were two set lists there, set list number 1 and set list number 2, and I was thrilled when I looked at them and noticed that they were completely different. And you would be amazed, ladies and gentlemen, if you came here all the time, and you actually came and you stayed for all of the shows. It is quite unusual that even the greatest artists come in here and completely do different sets. Completely. Now, you may go, well, that's just absolutely normal for you because you would never probably repeat yourself from one set. You're looking at me and
No, that's true. I would
is
never
true, right?
repeat. I would never do the same
Wouldn't
set
occur
twice.
to you.
First of all, there's an emotional well that you go to when you play very many songs, and it's one thing to hit reset the next day, right? To get a night's sleep, hit reset the next day, but to do it again the next set. On the Jazz Cruise, we do an identical show twice because half of the passengers see it once and half of the passengers see it the next time. And this past Jazz Cruise, Cyril Lemay and I did a version of Smile as a duet, and it went so deep that we had to do that song on the second show, and I just told Ken Poplowski, take the solo, because I'm not going to get there a second time. So for us, I would think you'd agree, right? There's something very fresh about coming out in the next show as a different set of material.
And each set, I mean, at least for myself, whenever I configure a set, I don't put together the songs, oh, this would be cool because this is an up-tempo, this is a ballad, this is in this key. But really what the most important underlying thing is, what is the story that I'm telling through these songs? And each night it's a different story that I want to tell.
So speaking of stories, whenever I think of singers and stories, I always think of the great Shirley Horn, because I was a lucky person when I was in my formative years in the music business in Washington, and Shirley was still performing, and I got to know her, and right at her, this close at her house at 2 a.m., and she would be telling me stories. And so Shirley was someone that you appreciated
Oh, absolutely.
as a storyteller?
I grew up listening to Shirley. Yeah, her hangs started late and ended late. I love her. I wish I had gotten to see these people, of course. When I was younger, I didn't get a chance to it.
Who else are your
In
the
jazz,
singers that
the jazz
inspire
singers,
you?
besides my mother, of course, and John Hendricks, and a lot of the a lot of the bebop singers, Annie Ross, Jackie Roy, but of the great storytelling singers, I mean, of course, who can live without Ella and Sarah and Billy, the top, the mega trifecta. But another group of my favorites, I love Anita O'Day.
Yeah, that's
June,
clear in your singing,
I know.
too. Well, that's great.
June Christie, Peggy Lee, Dinah Washington.
Dinah?
Yeah.
The swingin' Miss D.
Yes. Yeah. That's where Nancy Wilson got a lot of her stuff from too.
Oh, you can really hear
Really?
Dinah and Nancy, right?
Nancy Wilson, for those of you who weren't here, on June 21st, 1991, the very first night of JAS Aspen, Nancy Wilson in the ballroom of the Hotel Jerome doing a tribute to the great ladies of jazz. She passed away earlier this year.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah, but
I got to work with her many times.
You know.
She was very special to me.
And you, sir, are such a brilliant accompanist. You're every singer's dream, because this is a guy, and as you listen to the show tonight, this is a clinic, not a clinic, that's the wrong word. This is the best demonstration of the absolute support that a pianist can give to a singer. The moods, the variety, the pacing, it's just freaking brilliant.
Thank you. Jim,
If I could play
thank
the
you.
piano like you, I would.
I have to say,
I'm okay, but I'm not.
my favorite thing to do, hands down, is to accompany a magnificent singer. It's my favorite thing to do.
I'm with you. There's nothing like it.
Most singers know that I'm the guy that knows the lyrics, that they can actually look at me.
Right.
Because it's very hard to accompany a singer if you don't know the lyric. And there's a famous joke about a singer, and she's about to sing "When Sunny Gets Blue," and she starts and she says, "When Sunny gets blue." She forgets the lyric, and she looks at the piano player. He goes, "B flat minor 7." That's not what you want.
But no, it's a beautiful exchange. That's the way the song unfolds between a great accompanist and a great singer, is a kind of an interplay and a back and forth that's just was absolutely inspiring. And I loved also, I must say, the variety you covered. Wow, from the beginning to the end, it was just a journey, and beautiful. So well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Tell Shelly. Let's back to you. When did jazz bite you? When were you first infected? And what were the early symptoms? And who and how and why? What happened?
I was a precocious sort of a kid, and I was playing piano by ear when I was 4.
It's the right age.
And
If you play by ear, it shows up that young.
yeah.
That's how
My
it
parents
works.
walked in, and I was playing Alley Cat with 2 hands. Boom, 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 boom. Little stride piano at 4. So I started taking classical lessons, and I was playing Beethoven sonatas at 7 and all that stuff. But my father was a great jazz trumpet player.
Wow.
My father had an aluminum siding business in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow.
But he played all the time, and he had played with Charlie Parker.
Wow.
He played on Carmen McRae's first album.
Wow.
So anytime there were people in town, my dad would always cook a big barbecue, and people would come over to the house. There'd be jam sessions in the basement.
Nice.
So by the time I was about 10, he realized that I was a potential live-in accompanist. So he started teaching me jazz, and by the time I was 12 or so, I was starting to go out with him. I got kicked off the bandstand the first time, which was because I wasn't quite up to it, And I remember the drummer came over because I was like, and he said, "Kid, you're going to be fine. You only need one thing." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Mileage." So I got a little more mileage. By the time I was 13, I was in, and so ever since. And the last day my dad and I spent together, we played music together all day.
You mean with
my father.
you had the same experience?
Well, I mean, I was
Your last day together that you saw
our
him.
last day
you
together.
played.
Yeah, we were. I mean, he couldn't really play that much, so we played a little bit, but we mostly just listened to records and talked about music. And because when I was a child, I didn't see. For me, like jazz was always just there. It was always my lifestyle. I never questioned it. I never wanted to do it.
You grew up in a
I grew
jazz family.
Yeah, I grew up in a jazz family, and it wasn't until the monk competition. I mean, even in school, I wasn't sure of my place in it, and it wasn't until the monk competition in 2015 where I was put in a position of this is why I do this music, and it was my own thing apart from my parents. And then since then, I was able to connect with my dad verbally about this music, which was wonderful at the end of his life for sure.
Oh, so what's next? What do you see for yourself in the next 5 years?
The next 5 years? Well,
what are you looking to do? Where are you going?
I just got signed to Mac Avenue Records, which is one of the finest jazz labels. I mean, in terms of record labels, there's not a lot going on, but there's Mac Avenue, I think, is one of the better labels out there, and I'm really honored to be on it. And so many wonderful artists are on it, and so individually different in their own thing, and it's so inspiring. And I'm releasing my first record with them this year, and then just have 3 more after that, and I plan to even write some musicals. Yeah.
As in theater?
Theater, whether
Theater
it's
musical?
different genres too. But one of my records with Mac will be a musical of all original and 20s style jazz. So to branch out and explore all these different stories.
That sounds interesting. I like it.
Thank you.
I'm trying to hear you singing 20s music, and it's.
You can't imagine.
In olden days, a glimpse of stocking was see the
You don't know how many nooks and crannies her vocal style goes into. I've seen a few of them.
But this is the roots, right here. What you see, this is the roots of it all.
I see. And I have a question that I love to ask artists when they come here, and it's you have to use your imagination, which you have plenty of. So I'm just going to ask you a question. Just imagine it's a good news, bad news situation. The bad news is that you're being banished to a desert island for the rest of your life. That's the bad news. The good news is that this island there will be food, water, shelter, and most importantly, there will be a music playing device, a CD player, which has 5 CDs in it. So you will not be without music. And by the way, you will live for eternity. You will not die. You will live for eternity. So you have to pick the 5 CDs that you could be accompanied by for the rest of your life, happily, as you spun away the hours there on that desert island.
I'm thinking. Give me some time. You know this answer.
Shelly, same question to you, for sure. It's always great to hear. There's no. It's better if there's no
The George
preparation.
Zell Rudolph Serkin recording of Brahms' Second Piano Concerto. Donald Fagen, The Night Fly. Dizzy Rollins Stitt.
Fast.
Waltz for Debbie, Bill Evans.
That's a beauty.
And the original Oscar Peterson Blues Etude record.
That's a beauty.
All right. Chicago Symphony Orchestra's recording of Rite of Spring, which is my favorite piece of music ever written.
Whoa.
It invokes every emotion that you've ever experienced in one sitting. It's crazy. So Rite of Spring. It's got to be some Stan Kenton street scene recording. He does a bunch of Kurt Weill stuff. And something with June Christie singing. I mean, that stuff is so theatrical. Anything theatrical. I'm a theatrical person. You can't tell. Night at the Opera, Queen. And these are these are just all completely different.
That's good.
Antichrist Superstar, Marilyn Manson, and Fame Monster, Lady Gaga.
Wow, that was really
I need 5 different
interesting.
genres because if I get so angsty with one, I gotta go to another genre.
That's good.
Anyway, you asked.
Neither of
That's
us said
great.
we'd put
I loved it.
Neither of
That
us said
was-
we'd put our own 5 records on. I just want you to know that. Let's see. There's Shelly Berg.
I would.
That was
What about you?
my 5.
Yeah. What are your 5?
Oscar Peterson, Night Train, In a Silent Way, Miles Davis, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Joni Mitchell, Blue. Not for eternity. Herbie Hancock, Headhunters.
Oh yeah. Great.
Yeah, we could do this
I know.
several iterations of these 5 CDs, and
So I want to just close up before opening it up to a couple of questions, just to ask you, Shelly. You're going to hear a little bit more about this tonight, but what's going to be starting with the Jazz Academy and Jazz Aspen and the Frost School of Music is really an exciting thing for us here. It is really exciting, and I just want, Shelly, for you to share, because you've had such an interesting and varied music career, and you have your own perspective doing what you've been doing in all the places and ways that you had. And what is it that what is it about this opportunity to work with us and do this here? You've done a lot of great things, and you're going to do more great things with us and without us. What is it about this program, this thing that caught your interest?
sure. This is my 40th year in higher education.
That's a ways.
I'm hoping to graduate. No, just and early on, I was a jazz educator until I became a dean 12 years ago. And so I did all those teaching at band camps, jazz camps, going around and judging music festivals and all that. So I've seen how they're structured and what they do, and they're great. And I have a lot of sayings, and one of them is, because people ask deans all the time, what's the future of music? Great question. What's the future of music? I'm worried. Well, the future that musicians will have is the future of music. So if musicians have great futures, then by extension, music's going to have a better future. So what excited me about this is, of course, JAS is a great organization with a great track record. You can attract anybody here. Everybody wants to be associated with you. And your commitment to the music is very deep. So, who your partner is very important. But what really attracted me was this idea that we could create a boot camp. Something that says, yes, we're going to play in big groups and small groups, and you're going to play music and have fun and all that, like all the other camps. But we're going to really work with you on what's your persona, what's your artistic persona, what's your stage presence, what's the music that you create that's uniquely you. let's work on your business and your marketing and what you do to build your audience base. And how do you record yourself? Do you know how to go in the studio and which mic you sound best with and all of that stuff? So we want to make it a boot camp so that the most career-ready young jazz artists in terms of how well they play or sing can actually go, enter into careers using this skill set that we help them have. And that's really exciting to me.
Excellent. Well, I just want to add that from our perspective, that to work with such a music school that has the track record, the unique track record that Miami does, is a great challenge for us. A challenge in a good way. It's a great opportunity, and I think it will spur us to even be better and do more. And I look forward to. It's great when you hear Christian McBride, the great bass player who's been doing this with us for a long time, and sometimes he chuckles and he said, "I've filled 5 bands, coming through here." It just seems that Aspen is a place. I'm not even just saying Jazz Aspen, but I think we all know that Aspen is a magnet for a lot of talent in a lot of different ways, and it's no different for us in the jazz world. But it's been amazing to see people that have come through when they were very young students. Now they come back and I see them, they're on the bandstand here. It happens all the time. I mean, it really does. It's just, oh yeah, I was in Aspen. And people come up, yeah, I remember that I was here. This guy was just here last week. He said, yeah, I was here. I was playing with, I walked in the room, it looked familiar. I said, oh yeah, I played with Dee Dee Bridgewater here last Christmas. So it's wonderful to be part of that kind of continuum. And then here I'm meeting Veronica. I said hello to you at Birdland. Yeah. First time we worked together. And by the way, Veronica is coming back this summer during the Jazz Academy because we had to have one University of Miami poster child alumnus, and that was obviously Veronica. And she's bringing back another young guy who was here last year, the great pianist Emmett Cohen, who was here doing duets with another guy, Christian Sands. So Veronica's coming back with Emmett. And the Miami
also
thing.
a Frost School alum.
Another
Emmett.
Frost School alum. And I think we all know, we can feel good that in 5 and 10 years Veronica's going to be doing it. Remember that night when you saw her there? We were here. So I know there's going to be more of that. Hi, Nancy. There's going to be more of that. Okay, before we wrap up, I'd like to open it up. Anyone has any question of these two very, very engaging, articulate, and talented individuals? Just raise your hand. Okay. Here's one. Stan.
I just say that you got us all going with the 5 CD question.
Yeah. We've been doing this, asking this question for about a year, Listen Up, and a few people have said, why doesn't somebody write down every single artist? And, we need to do that because the list that would make an amazing book just to say the different artists and what 5 CDs each of these artists, it's amazing. And what's interesting about them is generally the breadth of the kinds of music that they quickly come up with without having really thought about it. That's what makes it interesting. Yeah. Anyone else? Question? Okay.
So, Shelly, in the music programs at the Frost School, how has technology become part of the program and working with students?
Technology is embedded into our program at the Frost School because it doesn't matter if you're an opera singer, an oboe player, or a pop songwriter, you're going to need to understand technology. You're going to need to understand how to record yourself, how to put your music out using technology. You're going to need to understand the technologies around writing music and creating, notation and all that. So we start everybody out with basic technology course that everybody takes. And then what we did at the Frost School, we had this realization that the reason people are really good at playing and singing when they leave music school is because they take private lessons and ensembles every semester. So then it dawned on me, well, to be really professional at something, you have to do it every semester all the time. Well, we couldn't have 7 courses for life skills every semester. That would be the whole degree. You take nothing else. So we decided to create through lines through the curriculum. So we tell every teacher, pick 2 things you're good at, put it in your syllabus, make it part of the grade, make it part of the final and the exams. And so if you're a music history teacher that's good at technology, put a technology assignment in your, create a music video around your music history project or whatever. So our students, they're color-coded in the syllabi. So they know that they can go through their 4-year experience as undergrads and get these 7 different skills embedded through their curriculum. And so by the time they graduate, they've done all that. Plus, there's just a lot of recording and notation projects that they're having to do all along using technology.
Who would you say are the alumni of the University of Miami in music that some of our audience here might know, who've come through the program and have gone on to be active in all kinds of ways in the industry?
Well, early on was Pat Metheny, Jaco.
Pastorius, that means.
And a whole generation of musicians like that, Steve Bailey and Steve Rodby and T. Lavitz, and just on and on and on. And there's a lot of players now who came through the program since I've been there, like Veronica and Emmett Cohn, and Troy Roberts, who's been playing with Joey DeFrancesco, and Tivon Pennicott, who's been touring the world as a great tenor player, and so there's a number of young now jazz artists that came through the program in recent years who are doing very well. So that's exciting to see.
And then I was...
But Bruce Hornsby was a famous alum, There's been others down through the years.
And then I was just remembering, and I think it might be interesting for everyone to hear about the Henry Mancini Institute Orchestra and the nature of that work, how that came to be, and how that's part of the Music for Us program.
When I became dean, the Mancini family are very close to me. Monica Mancini, Henry's daughter, is a great singer. And I've been on all of her records, and we've played all over the world. And her husband is a great drummer, 8-time Grammy-winning producer, Greg Field, who played with Sinatra, Basie, Ray Charles, on and on and on. So when I got the job as dean, there had been a summer Mancini Institute, kind of like what we're doing, where orchestra and jazz players from all over the country came for a few weeks to L.A., and they got what they don't get in schools. Classical players almost nowhere ever play anything with a swing beat or with syncopation or rock or stuff with film scores. And yet they get into orchestras, and it's a big percentage of what they need to do and need to embrace. So when I became dean, I went to Ginny Mancini and said, why couldn't we just be the Mancini Institute year-round and just infuse that as part of our program? So we've done 4 network television specials. We've done film scores, major label albums like with Patty Austin and George Benson, videos, music videos, all kinds of real-world performances that cross genres. So in 1 week, in one concert, they might be playing Mahler and rock and a jazz thing and a salsa thing. And so our students, when they leave, they just are much more employable, and they embrace a wider swath of music. And, everything we do in music is a product of the acceptance and rejection of influences. So I love giving our students that many influences because it's going to change what they do in their lives.
It sounds like a really, really great, training ground, the Mancini program. I'd love to hear some of those programs. Sound great.
They're amazing what we've done. We've done some really cool concerts.
And then, haven't you also done some things with Gloria Estefan, who's from a Miami girl?
Yeah, so I work with her all the time. I produced a record for her and wrote the arrangements called The Standards a few years ago. We got a couple of Grammy nominations, and then we did a television special, and guess who the orchestra was? The Henry Mancini Institute Orchestra played Gloria Estefan's television special. Nice. And then we went out and played Royal Albert Hall and Hollywood Bowl and all those kind of fun things with it. And I'm doing 2 TV specials with her this spring, so we're still doing fun stuff together. And we're working on a Christmas record.
Oh, good.
Stay tuned.
We've invited Gloria here. She hasn't happened yet, but I know
we're going to make it happen.
With your influence,
we're going to make it happen.
But we're patient, right? If nothing else, we're patient here.
Maybe she should do her Christmas special, television special from Aspen and get a nice Christmas background.
Oh.
All right, I got an idea.
That sounds really, really appealing. There's snow. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Yeah.
It was 85 in Miami the other day. So.
Is it? Okay, any last, we're going to leave a little bit of space before the show starts. Anybody like to, there's a gentleman who would like to ask something of our.
Shelly, I was just interested in how long has the trio been together?
The question was, how long has this trio
Let's
been
see.
together?
It's It's 7:43 now. We're going on 6 hours now. So Chuck Bergeron is in my Miami trio. We've performed all over the place together. We've recorded together. And Gary Novak and I have started playing together in the last few years, and every time it is a thrill. So this opportunity gave me a chance to put together one of the bass players I love working with one of the drummers I most love working with, and the chemistry worked out really well right off the bat. So it's not the last time we're going to do this, but it's kind of fun to get to put that together.
And then Shelly and I had a moment, and when we knew that we were going to be working together, and I said, Shelly, you got to come play at the Jazz Cafe this winter. We need you to come, and it's the right thing. Let's just do it and have fun. And then we started talking about the question of who, and I know he's a great accompanist, and we started talking about singers, and then it was like two names quickly rose to the top, and then there was no, we can't choose. Let's just have them both. Wouldn't that be better?
So that was the first time for you to work with Billy, right?
Oh, we just met this afternoon.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
And how'd it go?
Oh, I hadn't had a spiritual connection on stage with someone in a very long time.
Until
I think the last time when you're playing and you have any sense of doubt, and you look in the pupils you can see your reflection in their eyes, and you know they got you. And that was what happened tonight with Billy, and it was beautiful. Such a beautiful soul. Thank you for introducing us.
Billy's,
Yeah.
it was, and I was sitting over there listening. As you'll see how the show goes. I don't want to spoil it for you. But something happened towards the end that I kept saying to my wife, "Do you think?" And it did. So I'll just leave it at that.
And a different version of that same experience will happen in the second show.
Yeah, exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for Listen Up. Shelly Berg, Veronica Swift,